All right. Well, thank you for joining me on this cold Australian day. It's not normal, Mrs. Claire Fitzpatrick. It is always a pleasure to have you here. So,
Like,
you have been very busy since last year. The Writers' Festival seemed to kick off for you last year, a turn of being incredibly busy. And so, tell us a bit about what you've been doing.
okay, yeah. How dare you want success but also want to rest? I mean, what? Um, so yes, I think the main thing that I've been, I guess, talking about and spreading the news about is my nonfiction anthology that's coming out.
Mm,
Um, I'm really excited about it. It's called Vindication of Monsters, essays on Mary Shelley and Mary Wollstonecraft.
ooh,
Um,
so exciting.
yeah, so Mary Shelley is the author of Frankenstein, which
Of
a lot of
course,
people know,
the
even if
the
you're not,
mother
even
of
if you haven't,
science fiction.
yeah, even if you haven't read the book, you just know, I suppose. Um, yeah, and Mary Wollstonecraft was her mother. She was a pioneer in early women's rights, so she was one of the earliest women to um, advocate for herself. So,
Beautiful.
yeah, so Mary Shelley grew up with a very liberal family who encourage reading, writing, education. So it's no surprise that she had a very successful literary career. Um, yeah, so a lot of topics to explore in the book, a lot of writers to explore different avenues about both women. Yeah,
Uh,
really, really cool.
it's incredible what you can accomplish when you start to bring different perspectives
Mhm.
into a sphere that's normally dominated by one specific perspective.
Yes.
And so for the literary arts to have been gate kept from women for so many centuries makes my blood boil, and it makes
Yeah.
me nearly seethe with happiness and vindication that
Yeah.
the science fiction genre like it was entirely birthed from Mary Shelley. So
Yeah.
absolutely
A lot of
phenomenal
people did,
stuff.
yeah. A lot of people debate it. They're like, oh, it was Jules Verne, but it's like if you
Now,
look in the publication dates, no, no.
now they can fight me for that. They can
1818.
fight me.
Yeah, find me, bro. 1818, that's when
Oh,
the first edition came out. So I'm like, you
beautiful.
search for something before 1818. I dare you.
Oh, and another thing is Mary Shelley had such a hardcore life. Like her and Agatha Christie are two of the most incredible, like they've got these crazy things that happen in their life, like keeping your husband's heart or something in a jar, or what she had
Wrapped up
part
in a
wrapped up in
wrapped up
what?
in a silk cloth, she said.
Yes. And
I mean they like that like they eloped. I think
yeah,
she was like 16 or something. So they
yeah,
were together and like she died in her 50s from a brain tumor. So that entire life with Percy, they had a bit of a tumultuous relationship. We'll just say
yes,
that, but she loved him enough, after he drowned, sadly. She kept his heart, wrapped it up in like a linen thing, kept it in like a box or a drawer or something. I mean, if that's not true love, I don't know what is.
that's some Edgar Allan Poe stuff right there.
Yeah,
Oh my
it's
goodness.
it's
Oh,
really awesome.
but yeah, that wasn't
Yeah,
the only thing she did. She did plenty of absolute what we would now, even now we think of that as absolutely crazy stuff, and people thought of it
yeah,
as crazy back then. But she was
yeah,
phenomenal in the work that she did,
yeah.
and the lengths that she went to avoid Lord Byron makes me laugh every day.
I know. There is one main essay by uh Kieran Bruner. He's an Irish author. He lived in Australia for a while, and he goes into a lot of specifics about Lord Byron. And obviously, I had read about him before, being a Mary Shelley fan.
Yep.
But it was really great to read someone else's perspective of Lord Byron. And we just had fun back and forth. Just it's like laughing about someone who exists right now. What it's like, did you hear that he did this? And oh my God, he did that. And then we had to remind ourselves, hang on a second, this is in like long time ago, 1800, stuff like that. So, um, just wild. Like the stuff that they got up to in like Switzerland, like crazy stuff happened. And yeah, there's actually a movie called Gothic, which is a really bizarre movie, but I can't recommend it enough. It's like it's saying there's like this crazy orgy and magic and witchcrafts happened, when they came on with the idea to write stories. But yeah, Lord Byron, they definitely took creative liberties. But with Lord Byron, I honestly think that they didn't like stretch it enough. Like they could have gone further.
Oh, awesome. Now,
Yeah.
another thing that you have let me be privy to is that you have a very special foreword in your Vindication of Monsters, don't you? Are you allowed to talk about that yet?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Um, so cool. So it's from Sarah Karloff. So she is an actress and Boris Karloff's daughter. So Boris Karloff was in the original, I guess, Frankenstein. He is the guy, when you Google Frankenstein's monster or just Frankenstein, he's the guy that comes up with the bolts. And oh my God, how crazy is that? And I
That
literally
is
have her email
absolutely
address.
mental.
Yeah,
Oh,
we're
wow.
emailing, and she's the most normal person. And she's just telling me about her father, her dad, and then we were chatting about dads and how cool and weird dads are. And I'm like, it blew my mind that this woman has such, like, she's such an interesting person in her own right. But it was
Mm.
just like growing up with this father, and I mean, they had years where they weren't close because like he had a lot of relationships, but they always came back together. And she's like, she always respected him and thought he was an amazing person. And I don't know, I'm just really stoked that my publisher was able to do that. I don't know how they pull those strings, but it's really great to have her involved and really solidifies the importance of the book and makes me feel better that, it gives me hope that people will buy the book and
Oh,
enjoy it.
so
So yeah,
cool. So
yeah,
very cool.
it
Uh,
is.
so when is it due to come out?
It's coming out on the 15th of October, which seems like such a long time away. I'm
Blink and
literally
you'll
like,
miss it.
when? But it's coming out, in Australia, New Zealand, and internationally. So I'm trying to reach out to a lot of different early reviewers, reaching out to a lot of bookstores. My publisher is negotiating contracts with bookstores overseas, which is awesome. So that takes time, and we want to be prepared for when it comes out. It's available everywhere. Um, and like there are writers from multiple different countries, so we want to ensure that the book is there in a country. Like we've got there's a writer and he's Irish and he travels back and forth between Australia and Ireland, and I think he's in Europe at the moment. But we want to make sure that there's a book near where he lives.
Oh, it's going to be
So
so good. Oh,
yeah,
very cool. Now, what stage in getting the book ready are you up to?
it's complete.
It's complete. So no more
It's complete.
editing, no
No,
more. Oh, wow. You've got to sit on it for so long.
I know.
Oh, I couldn't do that. I have to, like, the month after I finish writing, it's just 1 month of promo and then bam, it's out.
yeah. The thing is, this took like 3 years to put
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
A really long time, and it really seemed like I think it was the end of March was when things were like, okay, the deadline's looming, we got to get done. And
Yeah.
about mid-April, it was like done.
Yeah.
And the publisher was like, okay, you sure? You sure? This
Yeah.
is it? Here is the internal block. Please look through it. Everything was done. And it was so nerve-wracking because obviously I have complete control of this book. The publisher was it was a really great working relationship, and they're like, so I wrote my own essay, but I also wrote the entire kind of index. There are introduction sections to every single, um, yeah, I guess section in the book. Did a lot of research myself, so I had to be the one to ensure that I had it all completed. And while it was really great to have that creative freedom, which a lot of people don't get with traditional publishers, it also meant a lot of stress because I had to do it
Yeah.
and there was a deadline, which is great, lit a fire under me, but I'd also meant I had to get it done
Yes.
because I was working with a publisher. And it
Yeah.
doesn't matter how great, how much creative liberty they give me, they still have their own timeline and they've got to get this book out. So yeah, it's pretty hectic.
Everyone's got bills to pay.
Exactly. Yeah. Very, very hectic. But they have a lot of faith in me, I'll say this.
Well, you've done it. So their faith is not
Yeah.
ill placed.
Yeah. Well, it's the first of the nonfiction line. They've never done nonfiction before, so I think they really took a chance with this. And
Yeah.
I guess I'm hoping that it works. I'm hoping that this doesn't make them go, no more nonfiction. Um, but they have said they'd like to continue working with me
Hmm.
in the future on other nonfiction projects. So that's
So
great, you
who
know.
who are you published through so people can look up all the other stuff that they put out first while they wait for October?
It's IFWG Publishing.
What does that
So
stand for?
so it used to be the International Fantasy Writers Guild. And years ago, like they've been operating for such a long time now, like over a decade, there used to just be a really small magazine called SQ Magazine. I don't actually know what that stands for. Speculative something, I'm not sure. Um,
That's a
but they
really
did a
good
lot of
question.
fantasy things. Yeah, I don't know. I should check. On
Yeah.
my contract, it's like SQ Mag. Um, but they did a lot of speculative fiction, you know, just like magazines and stuff like that. Um, well, mainly fantasy. So a lot of their catalog is fantasy. Um, and then over time, I guess they, you know, obviously wanted to shorten it. They decided to become a publisher of books as opposed not just a magazine. And I guess easy enough to just make an acronym for what you
Yeah.
already are. Um, yeah, so it's really cool to see actually how far they've come. You know, they've got such a wide reach. They've published a lot of really good authors. Um, I'm really happy to be one of them. I'm joking. Uh,
Well,
I'm really happy to
you're
be.
not called the body horror queen of Australia for nothing.
No, people should definitely not look at my Google search.
No, that is an FBI list waiting to happen. Am I right?
It really is. I'm watching X-Files at the moment, and like there's some gory like episodes, and I'm just like, they could totally make one of my story. I mean, if they did like a reboot or something again, and I'm just like, Mulder and Scully would be after me. Like they'd be like, who is this woman?
Oh, I love it.
It's really
I love
cool.
it.
Yeah.
Um, you also have some other body horror news going on for you at the moment, don't you?
What? I don't know if you can say.
Yeah, I don't think anyone can see. It's like at a low angle.
What? No. Um,
You're hardly pregnant at all.
no. Yes, I'm pregnant. I'm due in July, which is terrifying.
Wow.
Um, there is like I guess 11-year age difference if you count 0 to 1.
Hmm.
Um, so I have my daughter Isabel. She's great. But obviously it's gonna be weird to have a younger sibling. She's gonna be 11 years older. It's actually been really great, like great motivation. It's great. Like my brain, okay, my brain's chaotic. We all know that. But it's 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 been really good because I'm trying to get as much done beforehand because I know from experience it's hard. And even though older and wiser, I
We
still know
hope. We
what.
hope.
Um I mean it's been 11 years, so I hope so. But I know that it's mentally draining and tiring. So I've been banging out so many things. I've
Yeah.
been writing so much. I'm so creative. I think so. I'm just like, okay, cool, bam, I've got things lined up. I can take a break. But still obviously know that I've got things coming out. So
Mm.
um, it's really good. But I'm a bit of a freak, so I'm a bit of a maniac when it comes to things.
I feel
So
like
yeah,
I feel like as an author, you never really stop writing. You just slow
no,
down when you get tired.
yeah, and I've been tired. I,
8 months in, I can imagine.
I walk well, like what is it? It's like I walk my daughter to school like still, right? It takes about 15 minutes to get there. So I
Yeah.
go there, then I walk back, and then I walk there, and then I walk back. And that's every day. And it's finally getting to the point where I'm like, oh man, Isabel, like you gotta walk yourself. But I'm like determined mentally. I'm like, you've got to do it because then, exercise gives you creative energy, and when you exercise, then you can use those creative ideas. And my body is like, come on, man, just be realistic. You're exhausted. But then I'm like, no, I need to have that creative spark going. Exercise great for that. But yeah, like so it's got its pros and cons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, as an acupuncturist, the when I worked in fertility clinics, the most healthy births came from
Yeah.
the physically fittest women. And so walking, and that was the thing.
Yeah.
All they did was
Yeah.
walking. They weren't slim. They didn't have to be
Yeah.
like muscly and like gym fit, but they had
Yeah.
endurance. And all they
Yeah.
did, like the lowest bar, was they walked, and that was it. They walked for about an
Yeah.
hour a day.
Well, that's what I'm doing. I have intense endurance, but I think it's also I'm trying to challenge myself. I'm trying to say, you can do it. Or I'm just gonna I'm being my own coach with like a whip. You can do it.
Oh,
So I'm going as long as I can. But I'm definitely tired, but I'm glad creatively I'm not tired yet, not exhausted yet. Just my body is shutting down and it's like, girl,
yeah,
what you doing?
it's nap time.
It is nap time.
Oh,
I'm very
nap
tired.
time all the time.
It really is.
Well, I am
Yeah,
so excited for the Vindication of Monsters to come out. Do you have
yeah.
anything else that you've got coming out before then to tide people over?
Um, I don't know about before then. Gosh, what am I working on? Well, like I do have another nonfiction book coming out, but I don't know when. It's with Brainjar Press. So
Mm-hmm.
they're a small Brisbane-based publisher, but they're actually like they've just expanded exponentially. And it's my first nonfiction collection. So that's hasn't come out yet. However, you can read many of the things that are in it on my website, you know. So there's a lot of nonfiction things you can read because you're so
Excellent.
excited to read this book. Like I know everyone is.
Oh,
But yeah, I've had like three short stories published this year and like four nonfiction things. So still like A Vindication of Monsters has been the bulk of what I've been working on.
yeah,
But
absolutely. For the longest time,
yeah.
for the time I've known you, it's been what you've been working
Oh
on.
no. That's who I am. Who am I without this? But yeah,
Oh,
I have that and on my Patreon I am actually releasing some short stories and things like that and releasing unreleased. I'm such a bad writer. I'm putting out stories that I've been working on, snippets of things. I research a lot of really strange things. So I've been yeah, like putting stuff like that out. So if like interested or anything like that, you can go there and support me. Would be good. I need a lot of
oh.
coffee being pregnant. I mean, you shouldn't have so much caffeine, but I mean,
I mean, like
it's always helpful.
there are worse things. There are far
Yeah.
worse things than
Yeah.
going a bit faster.
Yeah.
Oh goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, I had another question. This doesn't normally happen to me. It's like end of the day itis for me at the moment.
That's how
Um,
I feel.
oh, so when you are at the Writers Festival, you and Jan Andrew Henderson are one of the few people that
Yeah.
aren't on a panel, but you're actually doing a proper talk in one
Yeah.
of the adjacent rooms. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about what you'll be speaking about.
Yeah. So, we're going to be speaking about writing children's fiction, children's horror, which is weird because I have no children's horror published. So why would I be doing that? Um, well, like, so Jan and I met a couple of years ago. It was we'd known each other. We actually met at well, actually when was it last
It
year?
was
The last
September
Logan Writers
last year.
yeah, September last year, the last Logan Writers Festival. And we realized that we had kind of traveled in the same circles, but we never actually met in person. We just knew a lot of the same people. And we got coffee because we don't live extremely far away from each other. And we were just chatting about, our projects and stuff like that. And I mentioned that I really wanted to write horror for kids. Um,
Like
so my daughter,
Goosebumps.
yeah, I like my daughter loves Goosebumps. I think it's great. Like it's such a simple formula, but it works so well. And he said, "Oh my God, what a coincidence! He just finished delivering a manuscript to his publisher, which was like I think like a middle grade kind of book. And so we said, why don't we work together? Why don't we come up with something? So he's actually traveling at the moment. He's like, I think he's in Europe. So we're
Yeah,
meeting up when
yeah,
he
he's
comes
gone.
back.
No,
Yeah.
was it Singapore or Switzerland or
Singapore.
yeah,
Sorry, yeah.
Singapore.
Yeah.
So he's
Asia,
not too
yeah.
far
Yeah.
away.
Yeah. Um, But we've started working on it a couple months ago. It's been quite a while. So what we're doing is we're basically putting together a collection of short stories of our own stories, but they're all connected. So all the kids live in the same town. They all go to the same school, and each story can be read as a standalone short story. However, there might be a sprinkling of things of, did you hear what happened to that other kid? Or, oh my God, like that, that's not true. Or did you hear about that creepy house? So kids
I just
can
had a
can really get
crow
fun at
go off
time.
in the noise. I didn't
Well,
realize I'd brought sound effects, but
oh, you did. Yeah, so it was really cool because I always wanted to write children's horror, and like I actually judged a children's horror book, not horror book, just a children's book awards earlier this year. There was a Foreverability Book Awards, which were written for, like it was disability advocacy, or like all authors and all stories were about children who had disabilities.
yeah.
And so I've always wanted to write for kids. I just never did. Just for some reason, never did. And I would tell my daughter stories and I come up with ideas. But it wasn't until Jen and I sat down and we started making this concrete plan and we're like, look, let's actually do it. And no, it doesn't seem like much, but we got like a Google document and then we got like an Excel spreadsheet. And we're like, okay, if it's tangible, well, it's not tangible, but if it's online, if it's something that we can actually work on, we can see, then we'll do it. And so yeah, I think we're doing like maybe 5 stories each, 6 stories each. Um, we share the stories, we read each other's work, we give each other constructive criticism. Both of our writing styles are very different, but we've been able to merge them together really well. Um, so I think so there'll be individual stories from each of us, and then we're going to do maybe 2 or 3 collaborative stories of us writing together. Um, it's a long-term project. It's definitely something that is not going to come out straight away. Like it's something that we're actually passionate about, and because Jan has been published by the big four kind of publishers, he's really made a name for himself. It's a bit daunting. We do want to actually yeah, we do want to pitch it to like a pretty big publisher. It might not happen. Like I mean that's very ambitious, but I'm hopeful because he does have connections with
Yeah.
the higher up. Um, yeah, and it's going to take a while because we're doing our own thing. We're both busy people living our own lives. But it's really great to collaborate with someone. I've only ever collaborated as like an editor with other people. I've never written with someone. Well, I wrote one sci-fi story with an American writer like 6 years ago. Um, but yeah, it's really cool. So we're going to be talking about that. We're just going to be talking about what it's like writing for kids. Obviously, it is unpublished, so we're not professionals writing for kids, but we're just going to be talking about our own writing experiences and maybe how other people can maybe start or just try something new
Yeah.
and collaborate with someone.
And you both
Um,
have kids. Like, that's a
yeah,
huge thing. I know that
yeah,
Jan experiments with his horror stories on his
yeah,
children to make
yeah.
sure that they are sufficiently traumatized.
That's what he like it tells me. Yeah.
And I love Izzy's sense of humor. Your daughter's sense of humor is absolutely hilarious. And I
Oh my
don't think
God, she's
anyone can beat it.
ridiculous.
It's so funny. I honestly, when I
It
see you put a post up, I always hope that it's something from her.
is like a
Oh,
lot of it is like walking to school, she tells me the rundown of her stories. And we have this continuing story that we tell. So every morning we walk to school and it's like, what's the next part? And we put like a pin in it when we get to school. And then the next morning we take it out and keep going. And Isabel has created this world and we kind of discuss it and like just tell each other the story. And she draws characters. Um, yeah, she's so creative and she doesn't like writing the stories down. She likes drawing the characters. However, she's very good at verbal storytelling.
yeah,
Um, and
dictation.
so I get a lot of yeah.
That's what
So
I
I
was
get a
thinking
lot.
about for you as well. Like you've got
Yeah,
baby, when you've got baby in hand, you then have like
yeah,
dictating phone in the other hand.
yeah. I could do that. And yeah, it's really cool because it's we're writing for kids, and Isabel is 11 this year, which is terrifying, and it's kind of like 11 to 13, maybe like 10 to 13 kind of age bracket, depending on ability to read. You know, Isabel's quite, um, she's very high work with her ability to read. Like she could read young adult books. Like she probably
Yeah.
wouldn't understand it, but she can comprehend that language. And
Mm.
so we're testing it. We're saying, I've been writing things and I ask her, do you understand this? Like, are these words too hard? And then she said, if you write a hard word, why don't you use one of those star things? And I'm like, do you mean an asterisk? And she's like, yeah. And she's like, why don't you put it down the bottom and explain what it is? And I was like, cool. So it means I can write, bigger words and kids can, read it. So yeah,
Beautiful.
I've been asking her and getting ideas from her, and some things she's like, no, mum, that's not scary. Other things she's like, oh, okay. She's very
Oh, I
blunt.
love it. I love it.
Yeah, she's so blunt,
Oh,
which is good. I need that. I need
yeah.
that blunt feedback because
Yeah.
if this is her, she's a target audience. So
Exactly.
yeah.
You
Once we get a
have.
manuscript out, I'll round up her friends.
Oh my gosh,
You read this.
yes. Traumatize them
Are you
all.
scared? Maybe this is a survey. How scared are
Oh,
you?
gosh. Oh, well, thank you so much for joining me again, Claire. This is the third year
Yeah.
running that we've had you. You are a regular at the Logan Writers Festival, and we love it every year. So I hope everything
Thank
goes
you.
very well with New Bub, and drop
Yeah.
us links for the October one. I will
Yeah.
absolutely share that
It's
around.
Yeah. Very
Awesome.
exciting. I'm internally hyperventilating. Um, but it's,
Oh.
I've given birth to that baby and then I'll give birth to a real baby. So, yeah, I don't
Oh.
know which one's better. I don't know which one I'm anticipating
One
more.
gets judged more, I think, but I can't tell which one.
The book, which is me, which is,
Ah, awesome. All right. Well,
yeah,
we will see you on the ninth
cool.
and 10th of June at the Logan Writers Festival. Bye.
Awesome. Thank you.